Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is on 5 passive income streams that you can start in 2026. These are all something that beginners can start with. A real passive income usually comes from one of 3 things. You built a system, you bought an asset, or you created something once that can keep producing value over time. We're going to jump right into the video with the first one. The first one's digital products. This is one of the best passive income streams for beginners because you do not need a warehouse, employees, or a massive upfront investment. A digital product can be a checklist, template, spreadsheet, budget tracker, an investing worksheet, ebook, mini course, prompt packs, Notion system, Canvas template, or a business standard operating procedure. You create it once, improve it over time, and sell it repeatedly. For example, instead of creating a budget planner, you could create a beginner-friendly debt payoff tracker, a dividend stock research checklist, a rental property calculator, or a monthly financial review template, just to name a few. A good approach to this is find one problem, create one simple solution, sell it at a beginner-friendly price, improve it based on feedback, then build a small product ladder. That's how a digital product can turn into a real income system. Now, number 2, content monetization. Content is not passive in the beginning. You have to create, post, test, improve, and stay consistent. But content can become semi-passive because one strong video, article, post, or tutorial can bring in views, leads, sales, affiliate income, and trust long after you publish it. This is especially important because attention is still one of the most valuable assets online. But here's the key. Create content that builds trust. For Josh DeLozier Investments, that means education first, content around money, investing, credit, business, AI workflows, productivity, and long-term wealth building. Our goal at Josh DeLozier Investments is to create generational wealth. A video about passive income can lead to a budget template. A post about dividend investing can lead to a dividend research checklist. A tutorial about AI finance prompts can lead to a prompt pack. A video about real estate basics can lead to a rental property calculator. That is a system. Content creates trust, trust creates distribution, and distribution creates income opportunities. The best content income streams usually comes from ads, affiliate links, sponsorships, digital products, coaching, courses, newsletters, or community offers. Start with one platform, one audience, one content lane, and one monetization path. The goal is to publish something that's useful, and the next step after that, you really just want to continue to be consistent. Now, number 3, AI-enabled services that become systems. This is one of the biggest opportunities in 2026. AI can help small businesses save time, create content, organize data, respond to customers, build workflows, analyze documents, improve sales follow-up, create dashboards, and systemize operations. The key is to incorporate ChatGPT into your daily work. The more data you put in, obviously the more productive you'll be. You'll get better analysis, and you can 12x your productivity over time. And that creates an income opportunity, across the board on any revenue stream you might have. For example, you can help make organize research into repeatable checklist. You can create standard operating procedures and automate repetitive administrative work. Also, creators can turn long videos into shorts, emails, and posts. And small businesses can build a customer follow-up system, and realtors can turn one listing into 20 pieces of content. At first, this is active income. You're still doing the work. But over time, you can turn that service into templates, standard operating procedures, automation, repeatable workflows, a productized offer, or a training system. A quick look at how this is done is, first you do the service manually, document the process, you can build templates, create a standard operating procedure, automate pieces of it, hire or outsource carefully, turn the service into a repeatable system. That's not fully passive, but it can become scalable. And scalable income is often the bridge between active work and passive work. Now let's take a quick look at number 4, which is dividend and ETF income. This is a great way for income. You invest in assets that may pay dividends or distributions over time. That can include dividend stocks, dividend ETFs, REITs, bond funds, or other income producing investments. But as always, you got to do your own due diligence. Always check dividend safety. How many years has the company paid out a dividend? You want to see what percentage of the company's profits that a company actually pays in dividends. You got to always remember, is this business strong? Are earnings durable? Is the dividend covered by cash flow? Is the balance sheet healthy? Can the company survive a downturn? Does this fit my risk tolerance and time horizon? dividend income requires capital, patience, and discipline. For beginners, broad ETFs may be easier than individual dividend stocks. Really, we at Josh DeLozier Investments suggest you do your homework and find the right dividends for you. A few that we recommend is O Realty, Maine, ticker symbol MAIN. They both pay dividends out monthly and are great for beginners if you're looking for dividend income every month. You got to remember to treat dividend income as a revenue stream that needs research, risk control, and long-term thinking. The more time you pay attention to the stock market and study and keep up with your stocks as well as the stock market as a whole, the more money you'll end up making. That is the key to long-term success. Now let's take a look at number 5, real estate income. Real estate is one of the most proven wealth building tools. Taking a quick look at rental income real quick. Rental income can be powerful because you may benefit from monthly cash flow, loan paydown, appreciation, tax advantages, and inflation protection over time. But always remember, real estate is not automatically passive. You have to keep in mind there's tenants to think about, repairs, vacancies, insurance, taxes, debt, maintenance, property management, and bad underwriting can turn a passive investment into a very active problem. So, as with anything else, always do your own due diligence. Before buying a property, you need to understand purchase price, down payment, interest rate, monthly payment, taxes, insurance, repairs, vacancies, property management, cash on cash return, break even point, and worst case scenario. We always recommend that you have an entry point and an exit point for every investment. You want a strategy to know where you're buying in at, what you plan to sell it for. You need the whole process from the buy to the sell, already planned out. Obviously there's some people that, have different systems and different setups, so everyone's different. But the more time you spend studying and going the extra mile, the more money you're going to make. For people who do not want to own physical property directly, REITs can provide real estate exposure through the stock market. The main point is this: real estate can build wealth, but only when you buy carefully, manage risk, and avoid over leveraging. That's key. So there's 5 passive income streams that work in 2026. It's digital products, content monetization, AI-enabled service systems, dividend and ETF income, and real estate income. You know, the key is if you want to take a quick look at the best way to do this to be the most efficient. First, stabilize your personal finances. Second, increase your active income. Third, build one skill-based or digital income stream. Fourth, create content to build trust and distribution. Fifth, reinvest profits into assets like stocks, ETFs, or real estate. That is how passive income becomes real. You know, the goal is to build durable income, durable skills, and durable assets. You know, build one strong income system first, then let that system fund the next one. That's how you build wealth, with patience, discipline, and long-term thinking. If this video has helped, follow Josh DeLozier Investments for practical advice on money, investing, business, AI, and long-term wealth building. As always, do your own due diligence. And we appreciate you watching this video, and we'll make another video next week, so be sure to come back and check out our latest video.